Thank you very much. Thank you, Director of the program. Once again, today, we are laying to rest our father, our founder, our leader, who was different from many in many respects. Once again, uma sisuka usinga, sikhale, sihlabelele, sisine, senze konke, ningathuki. It's a combination of many things. When we say finally to our hero, to our leader, goodbye. Rest in peace in our country, in your land, in your village. Noma sesikhuluma singasaqedi nje, sikhulume ribuwe. Thina sizwe sikhalela izwe elathathwa abantwana be-Afrika bakhalela izwe elathathwa lumhla sibuyayo gothula kuthi lumhla sibuyayo gothula kuthi Bokal, Ogoduma embamba, Kuzulu kwentaba. Bokal, sibuya, nomhla sibuyayo, gothula kuthitu. Nomhla sibuya, nomhla sibuya, nomhla sibuyayo, gothula kuthitu. Ogoduma embamba phezulu kwentaba. Ogoduma embamba phezulu kwentaba. Umhla sibuya, umhla sibuya, nomhla sibuyayo, gothula kuthitu. Lumhla sibuya, lumhla sibuya, lumhla sibuyayo, gothula kuthitu. Ogoduma embamba phezulu kwentaba. Ogoduma ombamba phezulu kwentaba. Umhla sibuya, umhla sibuya, nomhla sibuyayo, gothula kuthitu. Umhla sibuya, umhla sibuya, nomhla sibuyayo, gothula kuthitu. Ogoduma embamba phezulu kwentaba. Ogoduma embamba phezulu kwentaba. Those who don't know, this is an MK song that was sang in the camps as they prepared to come and liberate the country. Ngitheni sidedele nje, senze sikuthandayo. Director of the program, Minister Jeff Khatebe, Mary Berger Kotane, our mother, the mother of the nation, and the entire family of Kotane. Deputy President of the Republic, former Deputy President of the Republic, Kgalema Motlanthe, the Chief Justice of the Republic, Mogoeng, the officials and the National Executive Committee of the ANC, Central Committee, and the leadership of the South African Communist Party, the leadership of COSATU, led by its president, Tumo Dlamini, the leadership of SANCO, the presiding officers of Parliament, and the presiding officers of the legislatures, Premier, of the provincial government of Northwest and all other premiers present here, ministers of the national government and deputy ministers, MECs, mayors who are present here, members of parliament and members of provincial legislatures, veterans of our struggle who were together with this leader and veteran of our struggle, traditional leaders, religious leaders, members of the business community, members of the diplomatic corps, the Pella community, comrades and friends, fellow South Africans, I greet you all. Dumelang. Le kae? Re thabile he ha re teng. Le rena re teng. Director of the program, almost 2 weeks ago, we converged at the Waterkloof Air Force Base in Tshwane to receive the mortal remains of two outstanding sons of our country, Moses Kotane and J.B. Marx. Today, Comrade Moses Kotane has finally come home to his permanent resting place. We are filled with sadness, but also pride and joy, for we have the privilege of celebrating the life of this highly regarded giant of our struggle for freedom. That day, Moses Kotane gave his whole life to the struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. We are honored to have the opportunity to bid him a formal farewell, which President Oliver Tambo, Yusuf Dadoo, and other illustrious leaders had when they entered him for the first time in 1978 at his temporary resting place in Moscow, in the then Soviet Union, surrounded by the love, respect, and comradeship of the Russian people. We are privileged indeed to call this internationalist our compatriot, our leader, our father, a man who was respected from Africa to Asia and Europe because of his ideological clarity and commitment to the cause of freedom of the oppressed. On this historic day, it is important to reflect on the material conditions and social context which helped shape Date Kotane's thinking as a young man. These are the conditions that were to ultimately create a giant of our revolution whose life is worth celebrating without any reservations. Malume Kotane was born during the period when the seeds were planted for the Native Land Act of 1913, the consequences of which we are still reeling from to date. In 1905, the year of his birth, the Transvaal Native Affairs Department noted in its annual report that the time had come for the land dedicated to set apart as locations and reserves to be defined, delimited, and reserved for the natives by legislative enactment. It is important to also note that 1905 was just a year before the Bambata Rebellion, which, together with many other battles against colonial rule, serves as evidence of the proud resistance traditions of the African people. That rebellion laid a firm foundation for the formation of the African National Congress in 1912, which is also the year in which Mayor Rebecca Kotane was born, making her the same age as her beloved political organization, the ANC. Like many revolutionaries, Ndate Kotane grew up under harsh conditions of poverty, engineered by the colonial regime to ensure that black people amount to nothing more than a source of cheap labor. During his childhood, the whites' only Union of South Africa was conceptualized and formed in 1910 to the exclusion of the black majority, thus creating the unique situation of a settler colonizer sharing the same geographic space and national boundaries as the colonized. The regime further passed the Native Land Act in 1913, turning proud, self-sufficient African men and women into wage laborers. Like many African children at the time, Comrade Kotane received very little formal education and had to go to find work at the young age of 17. He did a number of jobs in the Krugersdorp area, including working as a domestic servant. But the turning point in his life was when he started working at a bakery and joined the African Bakers Union, which, like other unions, at the time was being set up by the South African Communist Party, which was then the Communist Party of South Africa, in discharging its responsibility as the vanguard party of the working class. The South African Communist Party, or the Communist Party of South Africa, at the time, actively organized and formed unions, did not wait for unions to form unions. Dr. Kotane joined the ANC and the South African Communist Party in the late 20s and quickly rose through the ranks of the South African Communist Party, becoming a member of the Politburo and full-time functionary of the party by 1931, when he was only 26 years old. It is important to note here that Dr. Kotane was a hard worker, which earned him the positions of leadership. Through him, we want to inspire our youth, in particular, to read, work hard, and rise through the leadership of organizations through the ranks, through commitment, dedication, and hard work. Indeed, Ndate Kotane was an avid reader whose thirst for knowledge earned him a fond place in the hearts and minds of the leadership of our movement at the time. He distinguished himself amongst his peers by his unparalleled grasp and understanding of the complex working class and the workings of the capitalist society. He studied Marxism-Leninism diligently and earned himself a place at the International Learning School in Moscow, Russia, where he shaped and sharpened his ideological outlook. Dr. Kotane returned to South Africa in 1933 and continued working hard for the movement until he was elected General Secretary of the South African Communist Party in 1939 at the young age of 34. In his life, we learn that we should work tirelessly to make South Africa a better place for all. Compatriots, as we do what we think we need to do, as we say goodbye to this colossal leader, we say he studied Marxism-Leninism, and his approach to things was based on that theory, Marxism-Leninism. Compatriots, we are bidding a final farewell to one of the finest organic intellectuals this country has ever produced. Moses Kotane. This was also a man who never saw the theory of Marxism-Leninism as a dogma. And he certainly did not approach it religiously. On the contrary, he saw it as the most effective tool with which to analyze society, and more importantly, as a guide to action. He did not see Marxism, Leninism, as a dogma, but as an instrument to analyze society and a guide to action. Other communists would say Marxism is a useful theory to use to solve problems and address conditions of different size and different kinds. They say it is like a cloth, a beautiful cloth that you cut, whether we are size 60 or size 30, it will fit you. You cut it according to size. In other words, you apply it to your conditions. You don't copy the application of it in another country, where the conditions would certainly be different. That is why Moses Kotane was among the first to say, let us apply Marxism here in this continent of Africa from an African perspective. Call it Africanization of it, if you like, or indigenization of it. But you are saying it is a theory that could solve problems in Europe, problems in Africa, Asia, or Southern America. You need to know it and apply it accordingly. It's not a dogma, it's a guide to action. Importantly, Moses Kotane was not an armchair revolutionary. Laba bakhuluma kakhulu behlezi. Bakhuluma ubusuku nemini, umsebenzi wabo ukukhuluma nje. Mbereko wabona kikubuwa vela. Importantly, Moses Kotane was not an armchair revolutionary. Yaipinda le, because there are so many who pointed wrong, the right. Abenzi lutho bona bahleli nje. Every morning bavuka, wrong there, abenzi nix. Really armchair politicians. He correctly understood what Marx meant when he said, and I quote, philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it, unclose. Laba bakhulumayo ke bakutshena babhedile la, bamoshile la, befana. They don't say, do this here, please do this, or let us do this. No. Every day, they spend energy and everything criticizing. That Kotane wanted to change South Africa, and he worked for that. One of his remarkable contributions to the theory of our liberation struggle and the history of our country was his passion for the Africanization of Marxism-Leninism. Communists say Marxism-Leninism is a scientific theory. Is it correct, General Secretary of the party? Huh? Or former chairperson of the party? I'm asking. It's a scientific theory. And we are told Moses Kotane had a scientific approach. And if you took that approach, you'll never go wrong. But if people say so, because I think today we need to understand a little bit more, who are these people that we're talking about? If we just say Marxism-Leninism, what do you mean? It's a theory written by a man called Karl Marx from Germany, and further developed by a man from Russia called Lenin. That's why it's called Marxism-Leninism. It's a scientific theory. If we are saying it is a scientific theory, what is science? So that to understand it more, that we are dealing here, we are dealing with scientists in political life. And of course, those who know science, I don't know it. They say science is knowledge obtained through observation, critically tested and experimented and brought under one principle. So if we talk about Marxist-Leninist, we are talking about people who will never go wrong because they practice a scientific theory. Now, once they say scientific, it means science. And science is not me walking in the morning and saying, we want Allah, we want Allah, we want Allah. Science is knowledge obtained through observation, critically tested and experimented and brought under one principle. That is science. And you'll never go wrong. They never went wrong, these leaders of ours. Yusuf Dadoo described him accurately when he said in 1978 that Moses Kotane gave an indigenous meaning to the universal thrust of Marxism-Leninism. In a letter from Craddock that the General Secretary talked about, in the Cape to the party leadership, Comrade Moses Kotane wrote this letter in 1934. This is what he said, and I quote it in full back. This he says, "My first suggestion is that the party becomes Africanized, that the Communist Party of South Africa must pay special attention to South Africa and study the conditions in this country and concretize the demands of the masses from first-hand information. That we must speak the language of the native masses and must know their demands, that while it must not lose its international allegiance, that is the party must be Bolshevized." This is said out of Bolsheviks. It must be Bolshevized. and become South African, not only theoretically, but in reality, unquote. This is scientists writing, scientific knowledge, truths and facts, providing leadership, so to speak. Another unique characteristic of Malume Kotane was that he was part of that rare breed of leaders who understood the dialectical intersection of the class and national struggles. He therefore understood with great depth the historic relationship between the African National Congress and the South African Communist Party, as well as the trade union movement. He must therefore be credited as one of the founding fathers of the tripartite alliance, both at the theoretical and organizational levels. While a leader of the South African Communist Party, he also executed his task fully as a member of the ANC National Executive Committee, and later as Treasurer General of the ANC. His character made it extremely difficult for anyone to demonize either of these two dominant ideological strands in the liberation movement. He succeeded through unmatched patience and tolerance to neutralize even the biggest anti-communist nationalists, such as the then young Nelson Mandela in the 40s and 50s. Of course, some of us only saw Mandela when he was everything. There was one time he was anti-communist. You know the famous story when he competed with J.P. Marx in a public meeting. He was sent to go and disrupt the meeting of Comrade J.P. Marx. But he made a mistake by allowing J.P. Marx to speak first. Because when J.P. Marx or Moses Kotane spoke, you had nothing to say. And Madiba had nothing to say. He just decided to sloganeer his speech. Said there are two bulls. There's a white bull and a black bull. And the black bull must rule. Because he couldn't say anything. Because not Karl Marx, J.B. Marx had spoken. These two patiently worked out to change the focus and the progressiveness of the ANC until the ANC is what it is today. They, particularly Moses Kotane, made a major contribution to have an ANC that is progressive, revolutionary, from where it was, from an organization of gentlemen into a revolutionary organization. They knew exactly how to handle matters. They were not confrontational. They were strategic. If you could liken it in soccer, they did not go for the man. They went for the ball. It is this rare ability possessed by Ndate Kotane to successfully combine ANC and the South African Communist Party without compromising either that made President O.R. Tambo to say at his funeral in Moscow, and I quote O.R., and this has been quoted by Kotane's son, it has been quoted by the party itself, and it is nice to quote it. It's like our Bible. You know, Christians quote Genesis every Sunday. We must quote them also, continuously. And I quote, if Moses Kotane was the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, he was no lesser degree a highly esteemed and completely devoted leader of the African National Congress. This is OR, describing this man, that all of us, as we stand here, we repeat the words and unquote. Ndate Moses Kotane was one of the earliest recipients of the ANC Isitwalandwe Siapalangwe Award, which was bestowed on him in 1975 in recognition of his outstanding contribution and sacrifices to the struggle. The only other people who had received this award at that time were Chief Albert Luthuli, who received it when he was the General President of the ANC, Dr. Yusuf Dadoo, and Father Trevor Huddleston, who had all received it 20 years prior to Kotane receiving it, and they had received it in 1955 in Kliptown at the gathering of the Congress of the People. So from those three, Moses Kotane was number 4. It was good that his organization recognized his contribution during his lifetime. Compatriots, we are laying to rest a stalwart figure in the liberation struggle. The story of South Africa can never be complete without mentioning this great son of our people who guided our revolution so jealously. Today, we begin a new chapter in his life and in the history of our struggle. It is the chapter of bringing Moses Kotane home in more respects than his resting place. We have to bring Ndate Kotane home to our schools, universities, townships, and rural villages. Everyone in South Africa must know about Ndate Kotane. Our children, the workers, women, youth, and indeed all our people, black and white, must know about this man who died in foreign lands in the quest for the freedom we enjoy today. Our people need to know all the illustrious men and women who made it possible for them to live as free, equal citizens in the land of their birth. They should know that this country produced more than just Nelson Mandela, more giants that still need to be recognized. South Africa has produced outstanding leaders whose lives will provide inspiration and lessons for generations to come. It has produced Moses Kotane, J.P. Marx, Yusuf Dadu, Walter Sisulu, Andrew Mlangeni, Ahmad Kathrada, Albertina Sisulu, Sophie Brain, and many, many other heroes and heroines. At times, we tend to forget what it took for us to reach this stage. In studying the lives of these men and women, we will understand what it means and what it meant to live in South Africa before 1994 and appreciate the strides we have made now. When we say we have a good story to tell, it is because we know the story of the South African that Moses Kotane lived in. We are happy to tell him today that South Africa is a much better place to live in than it was when he left to go and pursue the struggle beyond the borders of this country. We were able to defeat the demon of institutionalized racism and apartheid because of the foundation of struggle that he and his peers laid for us, and for the leadership and guidance that they provided to us. The mission of creating a truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa continues and began in earnest in 1994. During the first 10 years of democracy, more than 700 laws or amendments aimed at reconfiguring South African society were approved by Parliament. The dismantling of the legal framework of apartheid and transformation of many state institutions has led to the visible improvement of socio-economic conditions of millions of people, which is what Comrade Moses Kotane fought for. Compatriots, let me once again thank the government and people of the Russian Federation for looking after our leaders in life and in death in the manner that they did. We shall be eternally grateful for the solidarity and friendship of the former Soviet Union to the African National Congress and the people of South Africa during the difficult days of struggle when friends were few. Next month, we will be traveling to Indonesia for the commemoration and celebration of the historic first Africa-Asia Summit in Bandung, Indonesia, which took place in 1955. A journalist reporting on the summit then, in 1955, for a Russian newspapers, the Daily Worker, remarked on the towering presence of Comrade Kotane at that conference. The journalist described Comrade Kotane as follows, and I quote, "A man who had no seat among the official delegations on the conference floor, but to whom many bowed and nodded a warm greeting when he entered the hall," unquote. South Africa will participate in that conference in Bandung in April in memory of this great patriot who attended that historic conference as an observer and lobbied for the support of the liberation movement to advance the freedom we enjoy today. It is said that as he spoke, saying we need help, we need support, he said, we are like people on this side of the river which is flooded. We want to cross, and anyone must help us to cross. Even if devil came here and said we are crossing, we'll ride on the devil and part ways across the river. He was stressing a point to those who were there in countries that were supposed to give help, that we need help desperately to defeat apartheid. Compatriots, let me close with the preamble of the Freedom Charter as we celebrate 60 years of the Freedom Charter, to which this hero participated in shaping. To remind us what type of society our people wanted and committed themselves to in 1955, the year in which Moses Kotane traveled the world for 11 months, lobbying for support for our struggle for freedom. This is what the Freedom Charter says. We, the people of South Africa, declare for all our country and the world to know that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and that no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of all the people. That our people have been robbed of their birthrights to land, liberty, and peace by a form of government founded on injustice and inequality, that our country will never be prosperous or free until all our people live in brotherhood, enjoying equal rights and opportunities, that only democratic state based on the will of the people can secure to all their birthright without distinction of color, race, sex, or belief. And therefore, we, the people of South Africa, black and white, together equals, countrymen and brothers, adopt this Freedom Charter. And we pledge ourselves to strive together, sparing neither strength nor courage until the democratic changes here set out have been won. Unquote. We have achieved a lot of these commitments, but the struggle continues to build a truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa, where the fruits of the economy and the wealth of our country shared and enjoyed by all through inclusive growth and meaningful economic transformation. Comrades, how shall we remember these giants? Among the things that are important, and I think the General Secretary of the party touched on these, they were part of creating the forces that finally became allied. He was a trade unionist. He then became a member of a national liberation movement, the ANC, and the member of the Communist Party. They worked hard to create a kind of a trade union movement that would be conscious politically and clear. President OR, speaking in the funeral of Moses Kotane, one of the phrases he used, he said he was a stubborn man, a kind of special African. Those who argued with him as he argued about Africanization or indigenization of the party did not want to cross his path again. Sharp, straight, clear. Where diplomacy was not needed, he did not exercise diplomacy. The story is told by Comrade Ray, a stalwart, a lady who was a trade unionist, a white trade unionist, experienced as they attended an underground meeting of the party to debate about what type of a trade union you need. And she was assigned to write a document that would be presented in the meeting. And she did present a document. And when she finished presenting, Moses Kotane was the first to speak and praised her for a beautiful paper written. Very good for lectures at the university. Says a wonderful paper. But he said to a Comrade Ray, for the purposes of this meeting, take it, shred it, put it in the dead bin. Ray says it was the first time he was told by an African, so straight, and she felt so small, and said, shred it, we are not going to discuss it here. That was Moses Kotane, because he knew exactly what we wanted. So no paper will help, no matter how beautifully it was written, if it was not dealing what they wanted. They wanted a union or unions that understood the conditions of this country. And indeed, they emerged with the South African Congress of Trade Unions, SACTU, to which COSATU comes from, or from which COSATU comes from. And that's why COSATU is different from other federations. And in no way we will accept comrades in COSATU to try to change COSATU into something else. No. That's why the ANC has taken time to engage with COSATU. Because it is not because of the liking of individuals. It is a historic necessity of the struggle. The problem is, if you are, as General Secretary of the party was saying, if you are a unionist and you become too much a politician, you don't have time to deal with factory floor issues. You have time to deal with politics. Of course, politics is nice. We can talk and talk. We can even write documents nicely. It's not about the reports about how the workers are faring. He said they need to be conscious so that they can participate in the struggle, but not to substitute the political parties. No. Siala, Riahana. But they also built a party that became very strong. If you talk about discipline, the party talked about iron discipline. If you were to be a member of the party during their time, helped also by conditions of illegality, you had to pass the test. They had to satisfy themselves that you have now been cooked, you are indeed a communist. You did not just walk at the door and have a ticket and you are a communist. They spent time educating an individual. They called it the period of probation. They test you whether you now understand what is Marxism, what is a party, what is science, blah, blah, blah. So that you wouldn't stand in any platform political and say something wrong. Always, the party must say something correct. Some of the party members were in the ANC not known to be party, but they were motivating speakers. They would be put at the end to close the meetings so that they summarize scientifically. My babu. So if we are to remember our leaders, let us look back, let us look at ourselves in terms of discipline. Are we disciplined members in the ANC? In the party, are we disciplined or exercising the iron discipline? I doubt, standing here, we all do that. I doubt. In the ANC, we fight in the streets among ourselves. Isn't that so, SG? But Tuganama comrade, where is the discipline? Where are principles? Even the party fights the ANC. Where is our discipline? My babu, la felshagaku. Where are the principles? These were principled comrades. If we don't have discipline, we are not principled, how are we going to defend our country? How are we going to defend our revolution? Because we can only defend the country and the revolution and our organization if we are disciplined. They believed, and I think the General Secretary said, in the democratic centralism. Ayiseko ba. Ayiseko. Sekufana nekholwa nje lishumayela uMateyu kodwa libe liphuzela utshwala libe lizenzela konke. Kodwa likutshela ngoMateyu 13. I think we've got to go back, perhaps use this coming home of these two giants to revive ourselves, to be what we are supposed to be. One of the most important thing they kept is to serve the people of this country. That is what it was. They were prepared to fight for them, to die if need be, and when we are free, to serve them. We put the people first, not us first. Swanesi ribe heba to pele. They are good, aren't they? But to pele. I some self first. If we did that, we would have remembered these heroes, who will therefore be able to defend our revolution. Me, Kotane, and the whole family and relatives, this important day has finally come. You will now have a place to come and mourn. The people of South Africa and the world will now also have a monument to come and pay their respects and draw inspiration from the life of Moses Kotane, the fighter, teacher, commissar, administrator, intellectual, outstanding patriot, revolutionary, and giant of our struggle. May his soul finally rest in eternal peace. Robala Kagotso Siaparangwe. I thank you very much.